All right, let's try this again. I apologize to those of you that were with me just a moment ago. The iPhone literally had 31% when I started, and in 5 minutes, it all of a sudden just shut down on me. So I can't promise that that's not going to happen again. I got a really janky iPhone 6, and the case is supposed to be a charging case, but it seems to be more of a problem than anything else. So I'll get you through this, hopefully all the way without this shutting down again. If not, then I don't know, maybe we'll try it a third time. So let's check out what we've got with Hurricane Florence, and want to just prepare you for what could occur here across Virginia, and not intended to scare anybody, but just make sure that you're prepared. It's obviously being prepared for a hurricane is much better than the alternative, and there's also a possibility that this could not be, this may not be as bad as many people think. But again, I think we all need to be prepared regardless. So let me show you what we've got right now with Florence. And let's check out first. This is going to be tough at this phone, pulling this thing off here, trying to charge here. It's a very impressive looking hurricane right now. It is a Category 2, winds of 105 miles per hour. I do expect that it's going to be a major Category 3 hurricane by the 5 p.m. advisory today. It has a very nice tight eye with it and a good outflow signature as well. Anticyclone developing over the top of it. Very symmetrical hurricane, and it is in very optimal conditions for strengthening. The sea surface temperatures are about 29 to 29.5 degrees Celsius, which is about 84 to 85 degrees. So it's bathtub water out ahead of it. That's fuel for this hurricane. And also the wind shear is very low, and that's a good thing. A lot of folks want to talk about, why the for these things are so hard to nail down. So I want to cover that real quickly and actually give my phone a chance to charge here. You got to think of these hurricanes as storms that they're not on the rails. And when I talk about the rails, I'm talking about the jet stream or the storm track that we have for storm systems that come in across the United States. We look at the jet stream, and that governs where we have these troughs and ridges. That's where the storm systems come in from. It's a lot easier to tell how storm systems are evolving there because they're kind of riding on the rails, riding on the track. Well, with a hurricane is out in the middle of nowhere. In fact, you don't want any wind shear. Wind shear will tear the hurricanes apart, and they are just out there. You sneeze on one, you're going to change the track. Any type of outside influences will change the track of a hurricane. So we look for these subtropical ridges or troughs coming across the United States that can nudge these hurricanes in any one direction, and resolving those outside influences. That's the key to figuring out how these hurricanes are going to evolve and move. And when you look at the National Hurricane Center, they are the best at hurricanes. That's all they do. They forecast hurricanes. That's it. And even they put this out there for every hurricane. Their average error on day 4 is 140 nautical miles. That's their average error on day 4. And on day 5, their average error is 180 nautical miles. And that's from the guys that do nothing but forecast hurricanes. So it's a very difficult thing to nail down. That's why there's difficulty there. That's why I know people are frustrated that we're getting closer to the event and there's still not a definite answer as to what we're going to get here. It's just situations like this are very, very difficult to nail down. So what I'm going to show you is the operational. Let's look at all the models here. But we're going to look at the operational GFS versus the operational Euro. They've actually departed more in their solutions, diverged more in their solutions, which is kind of unusual. It's not that unusual, but you'd like to see a little more agreement the closer you get. And we had a ton of agreement yesterday, and now all of a sudden the Euro's going south. The GFS is maintaining its northward position. It may just be an anomaly. It may just be a bad run by the Euro. We're not going to rely on the Euro and just say this thing's not going to affect us at all. That's not a smart way to go about it. I'm still going to go with what I think is going to happen here. And if that's wrong, then the worst thing that happens is we're prepared for something that doesn't quite materialize, and I'm totally okay with that. So let's go back here now and look at what we have got. So from the National Hurricane Center, and turn this thing around here, and there's the latest track. Hasn't changed much. Again, they do expect it to be a major hurricane later today. Probably the 5 p.m. advisory is going to have 115 mile per hour winds, and it could become a Category 4 hurricane before it makes landfall. Landfall Hurricane Center still around Wilmington. Wrightsville Beach, and then notice there's not much separation between when it's a major hurricane and when it's a tropical storm Saturday morning. That's because it hits the brakes, slows down significantly, again, because of outside influences. That is the key, the outside influences. Here are the spaghetti plots, and again, they range anywhere from Wrightsville Beach up to about Hatteras. I still think Morehead City is a good center point for this to make landfall. What we're looking at right now, we have 3 hurricanes out there, Isaac, Helene, and Florence. Florence, again, this is moving ahead a couple of days, but let me back this up a little bit. What's steering it right now is a big subtropical ridge. This is building in and shoving it over to the more of a westerly, northwesterly track instead of due northwest that we might see at this point. And taking this in a little closer and showing you what we've got from the United States point of view is taking this thing, let's move this forward. There's the big ridge here, and that is going to be shoving this hurricane, which you don't even see on the picture just yet. This is this evening, shoving it again more westerly than taking that northwesterly route, because this is a blocking high. It won't let the hurricane move north very much. And as it continues to move out, then we're going to track another ridge building in here across the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes. That ridge sets up over the New England. So you got a 1024 high here, and here comes Florence. It's not likely that Florence will just move straight up the coast here. This is going to be a fight between the ridge and what the hurricane wants to do, move poleward. It's going to head in. The new Euro takes it all the way into really right along the North Carolina, South Carolina line. That's a big southerly shift in what it had yesterday. And I don't buy that right now. Again, it's holding firm on this high. If that's the case, we will get almost nothing from this hurricane. A little bit of a breeze, a little bit of rain, and that's it. So you want to avoid this thing, we all do. Pray for the Euro run to be correct, and we will see later on today what the new Euro says. That's not going to mean that that's exactly what's going to happen, but it would be a great trend to see other models kind of going with that. So here is the get a surface product. It moves in, makes landfall, North Carolina, South Carolina line. We get a little rain up here in Richmond. That's about it. A little bit of a breeze, and that is it. Pretty much nothing. Now, looking at the GFS, it's a whole different ball game. It comes in, makes landfall around Hatteras, maybe Morehead City, and especially Hampton Roads area, southern Chesapeake. We get a lot of wind and a tremendous amount of rainfall. That's what I think is going to be maybe the most influential thing about this hurricane, is as it stalls across the area for several days, there could be a tremendous amount of rain across Virginia. I'm going to skip ahead. Battery power's down to 10%. I'm going to plug this thing in again. Put back on me for just a second. Get a little more juice in this thing before this phone decides to die again. This drives me absolutely crazy. So to me, when you look at the various things coming together, people have been asking, is this going to be another Isabel? And that's an okay question to ask, but when you start drawing comparisons like that, that's pretty dangerous, because every single storm is exactly different. Everyone's going to be, none of them are going to be exactly the same. They're all going to be different. And what people remember about Isabel is the wind and all the trees that came down on Monument Avenue and all across the area, because we had a heavy rain year, and there was some rain with that event as well. This could produce somewhat similar conditions because we could have so much rain. I do think tropical storm force winds are a pretty good likelihood across southeast Virginia, Hampton Roads area, maybe up into Richmond. If the GFS wins out, if we get a trend that's farther north, and I think that's a possibility, coming into Morehead City, and then the eye coming into central sections of North Carolina as the storm weakens, I think even with tropical storm force winds, we could have a lot of down trees, a lot of power outages as well. But with Isabel, if you remember, it had a very strong forward speed on it. So it came in, it hit North Carolina, and it continued to move very quickly. It was weakening, but it couldn't weaken fast enough. It was still a hurricane in southern Virginia. I do not think that Florence will be a hurricane in Virginia. It may have tropical storm conditions with it. I think that's a good possibility. But even a track that comes straight into, say, Hatteras, Morehead City, and comes straight up this way, it's going to be slowing down so much because of its struggle with the area of high pressure to our north, that slow movement is going to really weaken this thing, because it's going to lose that source of heat energy over the oceans. It's going to wind down. It's not going to have that fast forward speed. We're going to be talking about 5-6 miles an hour instead of 15 to 17 miles per hour. Now that's going to increase the issue with rainfall, but it's going to decrease the issue with strong winds. And so it's kind of half dozen one way, six the other. But overall, you know, I think that having the rain, we can handle that a little bit better than the strong winds, just with all the trees, because you don't hear about people getting injured by getting picked up and thrown somewhere by the wind. It's the downed trees. And if you have wet ground, loose root structures, and you have just tropical storm force winds, we're talking 40-mile-per-hour winds, that's enough to bring down quite a few trees. So again, let's not focus on Isabel, Gaston, all those. This is Florence. It's going to have different impacts. But again, I think rain, heavy rainfall, widespread heavy rainfall looks to be an issue here. And when we look at that, I'm going to take you in and show you what the winds could do here. And we will start off late on Thursday. I'll unplug this thing. Hopefully I won't lose everybody. And so these are winds as we get into, this is Thursday evening. So you can see the hurricane down here at the bottom of the screen, making landfall south of Hatteras. The winds up here across central Virginia, those winds in blue, those are winds that are about 20 to 30 knots gusts. So we'll say 25 to 35 miles per hour. So as we get into Friday, the green areas start overspreading central Virginia. Again, this is your worst case scenario. This is your GFS. By Saturday morning, you've got the greens into Richmond and these orange colors south and east through Hampton Roads. So the greens would indicate winds here that are gusting up to 55 miles per hour, 50 to 55 miles per hour, and the oranges would be up to about 60 miles per hour. And again, once we get into Saturday evening, things start to settle down a little bit. So it looks like if the GFS were correct with this farther north solution, that your stronger winds, the strongest winds we'll see, will be Friday night into Saturday morning. Now, as far as rainfall goes, the rainfall here could be pretty incredible. This is from the Weather Prediction Center. And your rainfall there, everything in the yellow, that indicates rainfall totals of 10 to 15 total inches. And everything in the brown that covers almost the entire Piedmont Tidewater, that is 7 to 10 inches of total rainfall. And that's a huge area. So a lot of rain could fall with this thing, and we could have the wind as well. Again, the timing for wind for us appears to be Friday night into Saturday morning based on the current track of the GFS. That's the worst case scenario. Again, if the Euro were to win out, the latest run, this thing's going to go pretty far south. But I think that may be an anomaly. I don't know if the high is going to be that strong to keep it that far south. I still think a Morehead City landfall, stalling over North Carolina, or almost stalling over North Carolina, and then moving back into central Virginia with a big, heavy rain event for us. That's the main thing. So what to do right now is just Monday. These things aren't going to get going here until another 3 days. So what I would do and what I'm doing today, I'm going to go out and make sure that my generator works. The last time I used it for a long period of time was 7 years ago when Irene came through, and I used it a couple times with a little wintry weather. But make sure that your generators will start. And when you get your generator started, make sure that you have plenty of gas to keep it going. Never have it anywhere closer than about 30 yards from your house because of carbon monoxide poisoning. You know, even if you don't think it's coming into the house, your windows are closed, it can still come in through cracks. And then also never plug your generator directly into your house, directly into the circuitry. You need to plug your individual appliances into the generator itself. If the linemen come out and you've got your home plugged into your generator, then this process called backfeeding could electrocute them and kill them. So that's not something that you want to have on your mind for the rest of your life. That's certainly not something that we want to do to the guys that are out there trying to get us going again, the men and women trying to get us going again. So plug everything directly in there, just the vital things that you need, a light, coffee maker for me, got to have that, and maybe the TV. Charge your iPhones or your whatever phones you've got, charge those, and download the CBS 6 weather app. It is just WTVR Weather or CBS 6 in the App Store. Download that app because everything I'm doing right now, I'm going to be doing on that app. I'm going to be going down to wherever this is going to make landfall. We're going to take Storm Rider down there. I'm going to be giving live updates, and they're all going to be going to our weather app, and we're going to continue to send push notifications to the weather app. So the app is a great place. Charge your phone. Have a backup charger if you can. If you have a charging case, that works most of the time. Mine's not working that well because it's like 4 years old. But get a backup charger, maybe one of those little sticks that you can charge into it. So have that in case you lose power. You'll have a good amount of charge there, and you can always charge it with the generator if you've got one. If we get into a high wind situation, You want to think lowest floor. And again, I'm not talking about wind that's going to pick you up and blow you away. I'm talking about the trees that can come down on your house. So think lowest level always. We live in a ranch style house that's been built up on in the middle. So I'm going to have my family, if we get into a high wind situation, get into the middle part of the home. You want to put as much structure as you can between yourself and the outside. So I don't want them or myself to be on those wings where all you have is one roof line there. I want to have a second story above me. If you have a ranch style home, interior part of your house is always the best place. Basements are the best place overall. If you live in an apartment or hotel structure, get in the lowest level if you can. Make friends with your neighbors, and maybe you can bunk down for a night if that's comfortable for you. As far as food goes, just have enough food and water for 3 or 4 days. If trees come down and block your road, they're going to be gotten out of there pretty quickly. And I don't think you need to store up food for 2 weeks or anything like that, but generally the rule of thumb is a gallon of water per person in your household per day. That's a lot. I got a family of 5 plus 7 when you consider Walter and Stanley. And so, that's talking about a lot of water. That's 21 gallons of water. So we'll do what we can here to be prepared. I won't be here probably. I'll be somewhere down on the coast tracking this thing. But having everything prepared there, get plenty of batteries and flashlights. You don't want to try to illuminate your house with candles. People do that all the time. They end up burning their house down. You don't want to do that. These storms are heat-loaded storms. So when this storm comes in, Florence comes in, the good thing about hurricanes, what they do is they help to manage a global heat balance. So they transport heat from the equator to the poles. That's their function on the Earth. So when this comes in, this is different than like a cold front that stalled and we had a ton of rainfall and it kind of cooled things off. This is going to be a very warm and humid rain that we're going to get. It's not going to be a refreshing breeze. So people are going to want to crack open their windows at night. If you crack open your windows at night and you have a generator nearby, you definitely have to keep in mind where that generator is, where the wind flow is. You don't want to be bringing that carbon monoxide into your house. Keep that in mind. You may have to figure out a way to stay cool if we lose power for a couple days in some spots, because it's going to be warm and humid beyond the storm as well. Not extreme heat, but still well into the 80s. So it's not going to be a situation that cools us down at all. So that's looking out for your power, looking out for your lights to get around, your food and water. And then I'd say the most important thing here that you could do, and you still have plenty of time, is if you have any prescriptions that you need on a day-to-day basis, like heart medication, anything that's going to keep your body going, go ahead and fill that. Make sure you have at least 2 weeks of that prescription. So if you only have like 5 more days, I'd go to your pharmacy and fill that prescription. You want to definitely have that on hand and not have to rely on getting out and getting around to do that. Those of you that have elderly neighbors, check on them, check on your elderly family members as well. Make sure everybody is prepared. And again, we still have plenty of time before this thing comes in. And with that amount of time, I think that we'll be fine. Now, one issue here also that we have to consider is the flooding. If you live in a flood-prone area, you need to think about getting to a higher level if we get into that situation with heavy rainfall. The James River has the potential, if a westward track verifies, and we get a ton of rainfall across western Virginia, the James could reach a level that we haven't seen in many, many years. Hopefully that's not the case, but you got to think of the James kind of like Interstate 95 with a bunch of different feeder roads coming into it, a bunch of different little tributaries. Once the traffic gets jammed up, there's nowhere for things to go, and the rules of the road don't apply to the river, will overspread the banks, and all that water in the watershed of the James River is just going to build up. And if you get a ton of rain from a tropical storm or hurricane like that, it's not not out of the realm of possibility to have a river level of 20 feet. Folks have asked me, are they going to close the flood wall? That's way too early to tell. If we get 12 to 14 inches of rain in a huge area in the watershed west of Richmond, then yes, that's certainly a possibility. Those of you that live in an area where the flood wall doesn't protect, say west of the fall area, just keep in mind that we could see significant river level rises, and we'll talk about that. It's not going to be something that sneaks up on you. We're going to talk about that and the potential for the river levels to rise. So we're going to cover everything as this continues to develop. It's just 9:30 in the morning. There's going to be another whole suite of model runs later today. My feeling right now is that it is going to make landfall around Morehead City, North Carolina. It's going to come into North Carolina and slow down significantly. I do think tropical storm force winds are a pretty good likelihood across southern Virginia, possibly even into the Richmond area. We should prepare for tropical storm force winds. Those are wind gusts sustained probably 40 to 50 miles per hour with higher gusts. Again, higher winds, hurricane force winds. I don't think that we're going to see that in Richmond because of the slow movement of the hurricane. Now, the wind field is expanding and it's going to be very large, but I just don't think we're going to see it as strong as Isabel. But the overall influence with downed trees could be there just because of all of the rainfall that we see from this. So I'm going to go in, and there's a bunch of comments from you guys. I appreciate everybody being engaged in all of this, and I'll go back in and see a lot of folks just saying hi, hello to all of you. I appreciate you joining me. And what we're going to be doing is doing another Facebook Live as we get into the afternoon hours. And we're going to be doing lots of updates on the app. Everything's going to be pushed to the app. So get the CBS 6 weather app. Again, it's got the forecast. It's got all kinds of stuff on there relating to the hurricane. That's really going to be helpful. And we're going to be with you throughout the week. It's going to be a very long week. And hopefully we end up seeing, well, hopefully little from this. But I think we need to err on the side of seeing a pretty significant wind and rain event for us here. So that's going to be all for right now, and I'm going to update you guys a little bit later on this afternoon again when we get the whole new morning model suite in, see where things land, see what things look like right now, and I'll let you know if I have any changes in my thinking. As always, if you want to ask questions, feel free to do so on my Facebook sites. I'll be happy to get back to you. I'll try to get back to every question that is answered. You can like this page, share this page with your friends. Again, there's a lot of information out there. A lot of different places to go for information, and I think the forecasts here are going to be ranging from almost little to nothing to the end of the world type stuff. So just be careful what you read out there, and try to approach it with a level head, and just prepare. If you're prepared, then it really doesn't matter what happens. We'll all be all right. All right, have a great rest of the morning, and we'll see you again this afternoon.